Hello and welcome to Channel Duello. In this video I'll be reviewing the recently released Gwent expansion Master Mirror and rate every card including the bronzes. I said recently, but I hear you guys saying, well, it's been 1.5 months since the release date. Where were you all this time? The truth is I already made a similar video in Turkish language and the set was just released at that time. And since then we've seen some card changes, and I had plenty of time to fully evaluate the cards. So I think it's time to revise that video, and I think it's a great opportunity to do it in English this time. I hope you guys enjoy this one. And by the way, with this video I mostly target the players who recently started the game and have limited amount of scraps to craft the cards. So the ratings could help them make a decision on which card to craft. And also this video will be longer than my usual content, so if you're looking for a specific faction, click on the timestamps I listed below. Let's start with my rating criteria. Well, I'll rate the cards on a 5-star scale, and these are my explanations for these ratings, my basis. 5 stars is the best one, obviously. When I say a 5-star card, it means that auto-include in almost every competitive deck. For example, Falibor for Northern Realms. I mean, you include him in almost every Northern Realms deck. I mean, there could be exceptions, but it's an auto-include card. So when I say 5 stars, it means a card on the range of Falibor, I don't know, Great Oak, those kind of cards. 4 stars. These are staple cards in a tier 1 or tier 2 decks. So they are pretty good cards and they are frequently used. So if you're gonna craft them, you should not hesitate crafting those. 3 stars means these cards are good cards and could find place in lower tier decks. So they are not usually used in tier 1 and tier 2 decks. And I mean, if they're good, but they have better alternatives, let's say for tier 1 or tier 2 decks. So those types of cards are 3 stars according to me. 2 stars. These cards could be powerful when certain conditions met, but they are not easy to do that. And these cards could find place in non-competitive decks. Meme cards could fit into this criteria, and some weaker cards. And 1-star card means it's basically garbage. It's really hard to use those cards. You have to be extra creative to devise a deck, you know, that utilizes those cards. So these are my ratings, and let's start with neutrals of Master Mirror. First card is Oneiromancy. Master Mirror sets introduce echo cards. Echo cards means you can use these cards twice. If it goes to the graveyard, it will go onto the top of your library. And if you draw them on the last round, they're not useless, but you can't use them twice. So you need to draw these cards in the first 2 rounds. And these echo cards turned out to be really great, powerful cards. Oneiromancy is the neutral one, and it's a tutor for any card. So it's different from Royal Decree. Royal Decree was searching for a unit card, any unit card. This includes special cards and artifacts. So, and you can use this card twice. So when this card was introduced, I mean, no one is using Royal Decree anymore, unfortunately. So what should the rating be? Well, I rate this card 5 stars. You basically auto-include this card in any kind of deck, but not devotion decks. I mean, devotion decks cannot use neutral cards, so any deck which isn't neutral basically uses Oneiromancy. So in my opinion, this is a 5-star card. Master Mirror. Another legendary card from the set, and the name of the set belongs to this guy. This card got a buff, and it's still not good. Well, as you can see, it's a unit with Veil, and when it deploys, it transforms the leftmost card in your hand into a random legendary card from your faction that was not in your starting deck. Repeat this ability whenever you play the rightmost card from your hand. So it's quite tricky, and as you see, it's a random card, RNG card. So those legendary cards may not be useful for you, and the conditions, you know, the left side, the right side of your hand is really complicated. I mean, some people try to utilize this card, but it's really difficult. So, I mean, this card exactly fits into this 2-star rating criteria. I think it's a meme card. I don't think we'll see this card in any competitive decks anytime soon. All God is another legendary neutral card. When it deploys, it boosts 3 units in your deck by 2. So it's not a hand boost card, but it's a library boost card, something like that. Well, it could be useful, obviously. I mean, especially in Northern Realms, there are cards like you know Prince Ansei. I mean, if you boost it by 2, that's great. It will already come into play with 6 power. But this is a really low tempo card. So I mean, it could be great as a dry pass card, but as you see, it's 10 provision. 10 provision is a lot. Some people, you know, try to use this, but we're not seeing this card anymore. I think it's a 2-star card. I mean, it could be really downgraded to a 1-star. So I mean, I wouldn't judge if you rate this 1-star. But I mean, we can sometimes see this card in the future in a certain deck, so I'm gonna give this card a 2-star rating. Ethereal. Ethereal has been a controversial card. First of all, it got nerfed to 9 provision. It was 8, I guess, when it was first released. As you can see, it's a neutral card, but it's one of the best monsters cards, although it's not a monster faction card. Well, if you put a 1 power card next to it, right next to it, it transforms into a base copy of this Ethereal. So I mean, there are a lot of 1 power monster token units. For example, Garnicara's Fruit, as you see here. With this leader ability, you can put a Garnicara Fruit next to the Ethereal every turn, which is really easy to do. With Organic Swarm decks, you can put 1 power Insectoids. I mean, there's 1 power Rats if you play Nitrate. So there are many options for monster faction. So that's why monster decks try to use this card extensively when this set was first released. And the nerf wasn't enough because Caranthir, thanks to Caranthir, you could play this card twice easily, and even the, let's say, not so skilled players were able to get victory using this card. So this wasn't a fair situation, and it turned out to Caranthir being nerfed. Well, Caranthir needed a nerf, in my opinion. It shouldn't use any cards outside Monsters faction, so maybe this was a good thing, so that it led to nerfing of Caranthir. Anyway, Ethereal is still being used because of the Garnicara ability. So you can put a 1 power token next to it, and it will generate 3 points every turn. So it's a powerful engine. So you need a roll punish or a card like Lambert maybe. Well, it's a 4-star card in my opinion. It's not a 5-star card because it's obviously you're not gonna put it outside this fruit deck. So you need the fruit leader ability. That's why I give this a 4-star card. But this deck is really powerful. I think it's a tier 2 deck right now. At the moment I'm recording this video, so I think it's a 4-star card. So if you have scraps, you should craft this. Siegfried of Danael. I hope I'm pronouncing this right. Well, the card looks strong. when it deploys, it purifies all other units, so not just yours but opponent's units as well. It has a global effect. But what will you do with this effect? I mean, you need to devise a very specific deck for it, and since the release date I don't see this card ever being played. This could be a 1-star card, but I mean, it could see play in the future, so there's little potential. That's why I'm rating this 2 stars. Another bad card, Marlene the Trastamara. This card has 6 provisions, 6 power, so it's not that bad. It has Veil on it, that's cool. But the order ability sucks. I mean, give a unit Veil, why should you do that? And you can't build a deck around this card. So that's why I don't think anyone will ever use this card. I don't see any meme potential either, so it's a 1-star card in my opinion. So garbage. Let's move to the bronze neutral cards. Offering. You damage a unit by 1. This could be your or opponent's unit. If you hit a death blow, you can play a bronze unit from your graveyard and give it doomed. So it's basically a different version of necromancy. In certain situations, I mean, you may prefer to use this card, but in my opinion necromancy is a better card. But still it could be useful. So I give this card a 2-star rating, but it could be upgraded to 3 stars. Next bronze is Will-o'-the-Wisp. Destroy a doomed unit. So either you have to be really lucky to catch a doomed unit on the opponent's side, or you need a specific card to give doom to units which you already have, but that's not a great interaction. That's why I give this card a 1-star rating. Thankfully it's bronze, so if you pull this card as your legendary you're not gonna be disappointed. Pact. Pact is an interesting card and it is kinda useful. It puts a unit by 6 and give it doomed. Giving it doomed could have drawbacks sometimes, but it's not a big deal. And you just boost the unit by 6 for 4 provision, so it's not that bad. It's good actually. But if you compare it to let's say Adrenaline Rush, Adrenaline Rush boosts by 8. However, that has to be a lone unit on a roll, so you cannot use this card if you have other units next to the target. So that's kind of restricted. That's why Pact could be a better option in certain types of decks, and it has 1 less provision, as you see. So I think it's a 3-star card. Squirrel. Deploy, banish a card from your opponent's graveyard. This card's function is obvious. They designed it to counter echo cards, and if an opponent uses an echo card, if you could play Squirrel in the same round, you can banish that card and the opponent cannot use it again. Well, what rating should we give to these types of cards? They are tech cards. So they are basically put into deck to counter specific types of decks or cards. And as you see, this is a really low tempo card. And in the middle of a, let's say, a round, when you play this, you could lose the game. But in certain situations, I mean, you could secure your next rounds or the game maybe, thanks to a Squirrel. So I think it's a 3-star card. I cannot give this card a 4-star card because it is not that powerful. Fortune Teller. Fortune Teller, as you see, is 4 provision, 4 power unit. She has flexibility on her. If you deploy it on melee row, gives doom to a unit. On ranged, gives veil to a unit. So it's basically a combination of the previous 2 bronzes that I talked about. I don't see any use for this card. I mean, if you lack provision or playing a singleton deck, this could find a place, maybe. But in my book, this is a 1-star card. It sucks. Let's move to Monsters Faction. Master Mirror set. introduce evolving cards or leader cards. Well, this is a really cool ability. I mean, if you are an experienced player, you already know what these cards do, but let me try to summarize this. Evolving cards turns into something else each round. It doesn't have to be in your hand. Even in your deck, it will transform into the next phase. And each evolving card has 3 phases. I mean, since the game has 3 rounds. And the third stage usually requires, not usually, always requires devotion. So when we say devotion, it means that you cannot use neutral cards in your deck. If you use neutral cards, this won't go into the third form, final form, which is the best form. It will stay in its second form. So based on that, first form usually is not that good. You don't want to use it in the first round. So these cards are usually used in second or third rounds. Monster's evolving card is Oberon. It has 3 forms: King, Invader, and Conqueror. All forms spawns a unit. Play a random bronze wild unit, not spawn, play. So it plays, so you could use their deploy ability. In the first form, it plays a random bronze wild unit card, which isn't that great. I mean, there are a lot of options. These bronze cards used to exist before the set came out. Wild Hunt unit cards. They are mediocre. But with the introduction of this set, we have more cooler Wild Hunt unit cards. These 4 bronze Wild Hunt unit cards were added, and as you see, monster theme is Wild Hunt and Frost in this set, which I'm gonna mention a little bit more in the next card. These 4 cards are better options, but as you see, we have 8 options, and it's gonna pick randomly from this pool. But in the next stage, you can create and play a bronze Wild Hunt unit card, which means the game will give me a selection of 3. So when you have 3 selections, you're gonna pick the best one. It might not fit your needs every time, but they certainly help. Worst case scenario, you could pick the 7-point option, and Oberon will play for 13, even 14 if it's in his third form. And it has to be in his third form, because this guy will die unless you're playing Devotion. Anyway, so it's a really good point slam card, and in this final form, it will the spawned unit will also be boosted by 1, and if you keep playing Wild Hunt units, they will get boosted by 1 as well. And Oberon will not boost himself, which isn't bad, because you don't want him to maybe get so tall that it doesn't get affected by, let's say, Baron. So I think this is a 5-star card. One of the best monster cards in the set. One of the best monster cards in the game, in my opinion. You see Oberon in almost every monster deck. I mean, even if you're not playing Wild Hunt theme, because as you see, it's a. I mean, you're guaranteed, let's say, 11 points for 11 provisions. As you see, I mean, these are your worst, choices. You're gonna get 15 points at least, and besides that, you can use this guy in his second form. I mean, you don't have to play Devotion. Just be careful not to play this guy, this unicorn killer guy, because I mean, you're gonna create and play ability again in the second form. So third form is optional. Artgate is the echo card of this monster faction, of this set. Artgate isn't as good as the other echo cards, in my opinion. It spawns Frost on both enemy rows for 3 turns, and Frost will damage the highest unit by 2 points. You may not, I mean, the opponent may not have units on both rows, especially if the opponent is familiar with the deck you're playing. He will not try to, put everything I mean, divide the units and try to put everything on a single row. So you may not hit both rows with Frost. And if you play this card, it is kind of low tempo. It requires longer rounds to get the most benefit out of this. However, with Artgate, you can summon Winter Queen, which I will talk about in the next slide. I want to give this card 3-star rating, but I cannot, since my criteria says this card belongs to a tier 1, tier 2 deck, and overwhelming hunger using Frost deck is pretty good. So, and Artgate is a staple card in this deck, so I cannot rate this card 3 stars. So it deserves 4 stars, so I'll give it to it. Next Wild Hunt gold card is Eredin himself, Eredin Brack Glass. Again, Frost theme is prominent here. Deploy Spawn Frost and enemy row for 2 turns. And if you have dominance, the damage dealt by Frost will be increased by 1. This is the more important part. So if you can, hit 3 by 3 for each turn, it will make a huge difference. But it may not be easy to get dominance, because as you see, Eredin is only a 5 power unit. But if you calculate it, let's say you have dominance and the Frost will hit 3, and suppose the opponent has units on both rows, so 5, 6 and another 6, it could go up to 17. So 17 is huge for temp provisions, but this is the most optimistic scenario. It doesn't happen that way in the game. And Eredin is usually answered, so you can use dominance for 1 turn usually. As a result, this guy is not being preferred. I mean, people use different cards for temp provisions, and you cannot play a, let's say, competitive Wild Hunt theme deck. Wild Hunt is kind of supplementary to existing decks right now. Maybe in the future this card could be upgraded to 5 stars. Actually, in my previous video, I rated this card 5 stars. I regret it now. It's not that good as I expected. I thought, I mean, Wild Hunt theme and Frost could be better, but apparently I wasn't right. Winter Queen is a really good card. You need to play Devotion to get the most out of Winter Queen, first of all. It is a Thrive card, so if you keep playing cards higher than this unit, it will get boosted, she will get boosted. But the most important thing, you can thin out your Winter Queen with Frost. And Frost cards usually are played on both rows, so when you play on both rows, Winter Queen will be summoned from your deck to the range row. And it could be a great tempo boost. I mean, I said Artgate is low tempo, but if you can combine it with Winter Queen, that changes things. But if you play Artgate the second time, Winter Queen will not be summoned because she is in the graveyard. That's why it could not be as good as the first play. So Winter Queen is usually on competitive decks, so that's why I'm rating this 4 star, just as I did with Artgate. Aperian Phantom. Aperian Phantom is one of the patience cards. They are not calling it patience, obviously, but we have cards like this in every faction. What do these cards do? If you're patient enough and do not use these cards' order ability, something good will happen. For Aperian Phantom, it boosts itself by 1. And compared to other cards, Phantom cannot be killed by 5 damage, because when you play it, it will be boosted to 6 before the opponent has a chance to answer it. That's why it requires Parasite Decoction or something like that. I mean, you need 6 points to remove this guy. And it could damage an enemy unit by 3. And it has Zeal, that's why you may prefer to use 3 damage instead of boosting it. So, very flexible card. This card is really close to a 5 star rating. but I mean it's not an auto include. That's why I rated this 4-star, but it's very close to a 5-star rating. And Hyperion sometimes replaces the Beasts in certain decks. So Beasts was a 5-star card in my opinion. It was great, but now the Beast has, let's say, a competition now. Let's move to bronze monster unit cards, monster cards. Red Riders. This is a Wild Hunt tagged card, and it's a special card. It spawns Frost, and a flexible Frost. You can spawn Frosts on both rows for 2 turns, or select the row and spawn it for 4 turns. And this is a great control tool. It helps with dominance. I think it's a very solid bronze card. But I'm rating it 3 stars because we're not seeing this card in tier 1 or tier 2 decks. I mean, some decks use it, but they are not as good as the, let's say, overwhelming hunger deck currently being played right now. It's a 3.5 star rating. Wild Hunt Bruiser. Well, Monsters faction did have a move unit in the name of Drowner. And Drowner was a 2-power card, but it had Thrive. This guy is stronger. It doesn't have Thrive, but it has an additional ability. So if you're using Frost, this will help with the Frost. So when you move the enemy to the other row, and if that row has Frost on it, it will get an additional damage by 2. So it is really helpful to destroy some units and to get the most points out of Frost ability. And even if you don't have Frost, you know, you can move the defenders and range and row locked units. So I think it's a very cool card for only 5 provisions. I'm giving this a 4-star rating. It's not an auto include, but it's very close to a 5-star rating. Naglfar's Taskmaster. Another pretty good card because it has Purify. Monsters didn't have a Purify unit. They had to use Peller to take care of that. Now you don't have to. But not necessarily, because this deploys... when this guy is deployed, it purifies an enemy unit. So in order to purify your unit, you need to have dominance on the board. So it's conditional, and in some certain situations you may not be able to do it. Some decks put a single copy of Taskmaster. Some do not use and try to take chance by playing Oberon and, you know, get Taskmaster to get the Purify. That's why I rate this 3 stars, because we don't see this guy in competitive decks often. Naglfar's Crew, another bronze wild unit card, and it is synergetic with Frost. This guy also helps deploying Frost for 2 turns on an enemy row, spawning Frost, and it boosts itself as long as there is Frost on the opposite row. This could be a, let's say, mediocre range in some cases. In longer rounds, when you pick this guy from Oberon, this guy could help a lot. But in short rounds, he is useless. So I think this card deserves 3 stars. Untitled Conqueror. 4 provision, 7 strength is madness. We have not seen any card like that before. And the only requirement is you need to play Devotion. So playing neutral is restricted, forbidden. As long as you play Devotion, this guy comes into play as 7 power units. So it's great for short rounds, it's great for Thrive, and it's great against Poison because it has Veil on. And I think it is very close to a 5-star rating, but I cannot do that because you need to play Devotion. So that restriction makes me rate the card 4 stars. Let's move to Nilfgaard. Nilfgaard's evolving card is Usurper. Usurper, Officer, General, and Emperor are the three forms of this card. What it does, it spawns operatives. Well, the first form is pretty much useless, but the second and third forms are really great. Second form, it spawns two operatives in each enemy rows, and whenever you feel like it, you can call them back. I mean, since he has zeal, you can do it on the same turn, which you should mostly need to do. But in some cases, you may hold on to calling them back, just to occupy space in the opponent's board. But it's very rare. People try to call these operatives back. And as you see, he has 6 power. And these operatives are 3 power, so for 11 provisions, you're playing 12 points card. So it's good by himself, but there are other synergies. For example, when you play an operative, you put spying tag on the opponent's row, so as you see, Thirsty Dame gets benefit. His second and third forms are soldier, so you're playing a soldier. So cards like Crossbowman get the benefit out of him. And his final form is an aristocrat, not second form, only the final form. So you need to play Devotion to get the aristocrat tag. So what does it mean? It triggers a chapter of Masquerade Ball. So as you see, this guy is great. So I think he deserves a 5-star rating, no question about it. Bravens. Well, Bravens is a value card, a great value card. When he deploys, create and play a bronze disloyal Nilfgaard unit. Sounds similar to Oberon. However, Oberon's spawn pool was I think 8, but this guy has 3 choices. So this is not an RNG card. You're not picking a random card. Your choices are always the same, unless CD Projekt Red, prints more spying units, more spying bronze units. So these bronze units are in your disposal. Whichever unit you're gonna pick it. I mean, if you need to damage 2 units, you can get the Mage Infiltrator. If you want to copy a good bronze unit on the opponent's row, you use the Duchess Informant, and your worst selection is the Emissary, I think. Yeah. So whenever you play these, it also triggers Braden's Assimilate ability. So if you're playing an Assimilate deck, Double Cross deck, Braden's is a must include. But if you're not playing even those kinds of deck, Braden's is a really great value card. That's why I rate this card 5-star, and we're seeing this guy in almost every Nilfgaard deck. Even though he's 11 provisions, I think it's a great card. But I mean, as time passes, if we see more bronze spying units, this guy's value could go down. Coup de Grace. Nilfgaard's Echo card fits the theme with spying. As you see, Nilfgaard has the spying theme, a lot of spying units. Well, what it does is it damages an enemy unit by 2. If you manage to kill it, I mean, if you hit the death blow, you can spawn and play a base copy of it. Well, 2 power is really a small value. If you have Conspiracy though, I mean, if you're hitting a spy unit, it will always trigger Death Blow ability. So what does it mean? Those 3 cards are really valuable in combination with Coup de Grace. I mean, you can play Roderick again and find another gold card from your deck. You can play Joachim twice, which is the best target for Coup de Grace in my opinion. And even Cantarella is a good target. But I think Roderick is the best target. I mean, even if you're not playing Double Cross, I mean, you can use Coup de Grace. But Coup de Grace is usually being used in double cross and assimilate decks, because it doesn't necessarily fit into let's say ball decks. Maybe in some enslave and tactic heavy decks it could be used. I mean, some assimilate and some tactics, but I mean they're not, let's say, tier 1 or tier 2 decks. But double cross is a really good deck, so I cannot rate this card a 3-star because it's really a great card. So I'm boosting this rating to up to 4 stars, but it's not a 5-star card. Fergus Var Emrys. Well, Fergus has spying synergy with certain cards, particularly enforcers. Whenever you play a spying unit, or let's say opponent gains spying, enforcers gain 1 charge, and 1 charge means 1 damage. And when you deploy, give an enemy unit spying. But if you have devotion, you can give 3 enemy units spying instead, which means if you have, let's say, 3 enforcers on your side, all these 3 will gain 3 more charges, and this means a lot of points. In addition to that, this guy is an aristocrat, so Fergus is an auto-include in, let's say, spying, not spying, but single ball decks with enforcers and soldiers. So I think it's a 4-star card, since those decks are pretty competitive. Urchin of Erlenwald. One of the patience cards, Nilfgaard's patience cards, is Urchin. It is quite different from the others. Well, I mean, you still have that patience thing. If you keep this card and do not turn into Duny, when it transforms into Duny, it's a 7 power card with immunity, hard to be dealt with, but it's, you know, 7 power for 7 provision. It's not that great. If you somehow manage to be patient and not use those ability, it will boost other units by 1 every turn. So it's pretty good, but it's not that good. I mean, it's not as good as the other patience units. That's why we don't see this guy often. So I think he deserves 3 stars. Bronze units for Nilfgaard. Amnesty. Amnesty pretty much replaced Suirs. Well, obviously Suirs is better. You steal a 3 power card and also put a 3 power unit on the board, but it's 8 provisions. So let's say you save 2 provisions by using Amnesty, and if you're somehow, let's say, playing you don't have to play devotion, but if you're playing devotion, it will boost by 2. So it's a really good value card, and it's a tactic. Don't forget that you can, you know, tutor it with other cards, which fits with Nilfgaard theme, Nilfgaard tactic theme. That's why it's a 4-star card, in my opinion. We see Amnesty being used, but I mean, usually a single copy is used. You're not using 2 copies of Amnesty. The power level is actually quite close to a gold card, and since we're playing it, I mean, almost like a single copy, it could be like a 6 power gold card, like those runestones. Mage Torturer is a pretty good card. She has Veil on her. She has Assimilate, and when you deploy, give an enemy unit spying. So it's an auto-include in double cross decks, obviously, but in other decks she could be useful. You could give an enemy unit spying, and then use coup de grace to copy that unit. You don't have to kill it with death blows, because that unit will have spying on it. And you know, again, Thirsty Dame will be triggered since you're giving spying to the unit. But I don't think it's a 4-star card, at least for now. In the future, we may see more usage out of her, but right now it's a 3-star card. Seditious Aristocrats. Deploy boost self by 1 for every spying enemy unit. Whenever any enemy unit gains spying, boost self by 1. So if you're playing strictly spying theme deck, you can use this card. But I'm not talking about double cross assimilate decks. I mean, if you're every single card I mean fits the spying synergy, this card should be there. So it's quite conditional. That's why I rate this card 3-star card, but it could be downgraded to a 2-star card because we don't see much usage of this card. Angry Mob looked pretty cool when it was first released, but we're not seeing much use out of this card. Deploy damage an enemy unit by 2, conspiracy boost self by 2, so that if that unit is a spy, it's gonna boost self by 2. But I mean, you play coup de grace, why, you know, hit a unit and try to get boosted by 2. I mean, you don't want to kill the spying unit in certain situations. That's why I think it's a 2-star card. I don't think it's that great. Mage Infiltrator. Well, this unit kills larvas if you play in the middle of it, in middle of them, and will kill other Javet's defenders. So those two uses are really common, and they are really powerful interactions. But we don't see Mage Infiltrator being used too often because we have Breathens, and you kinda need to use this card only once. I mean, especially if you're playing against, you know, monsters or Syndicate. That's why, I mean, we keep Breathens and try not to use Mage Infiltrator. I admit it's a great card, it's powerful, but I mean, thanks to Breathens, we can play her, but not put her in our deck. That's why I rate this card 3 stars. I mean, I'm not rating it 2 because I mean some decks still use it and include it in their decks. Northern Rams. Well, Northern Rams do not have a specific theme in this deck. Well, they have Karak Navy in their disposal now, and but we're not seeing a specific ability or sort of that sort of thing. Instead, I mean, current order abilities and other things are being boosted or improved. That's the decision CD Projekt made with Northern Rams. And I think Northern Rams is one of the winners of this set because they have really good cards in Master Mirror. Let's start with the evolving card, Viraxis. Viraxis, what does Viraxis do? Well, with order ability, resets an allied Northern Realms unit's order ability. And even the first form is useful. I mean, if you're planning to use this ability. So what cards do have really powerful order ability? I mean, what Northern Realms card? I'm not talking about Damien or Stefan. Well, Prince Ansei obviously has dual ability. So if you can duel twice with the Prince Ansei, that's great. Huge power swing there. And if you're playing against let's say Syndicate or Monsters deck which have boosted units, why don't we use Baron twice? So that's what Viraxis do. Boost, use these guys, use one of these guys twice, and depending on the opponent, you can select to use Ansei or Baron. But you need to keep those guys alive. So I mean, if they're dead, maybe you're gonna have to choose Karak Marine, which is a lesser order ability. Still pretty good though. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is I think Viraxis is inferior to other evolving cards. I mean, you need to be really careful to keep those key cards alive. But other evolving cards, you don't have to do anything. You just play them. You just slam them, and you know, especially with Oberon and Herald, they spawn units immediately. So you get the, and also Usurper, you get the value immediately. That's why I cannot rate Viraxis 5 stars. I know it's a great card. You get great value out of it, but it's quite conditional. You have to play really careful. So I think he is a 4-star card. And also the final form is pretty cool, and people prefer to use Northern Realms with Devotion nowadays. because it boosts soldiers. I mean, it's not that great, but it's really helpful. Amphibious Assault is undoubtedly the best Northern Realms card, maybe one of the best cards in the entire set. I'm rating this 5 stars. Why? Because it's a great tutor card and you play twice. So Neuromancy is a great tutor card, and Northern Realms has another tutor card. I mean, if you decide to play non-devotion decks, you can use both Neuromancy and Amphibious Assault. What does Amphibious Assault do? Well, you can play a Northern Realms unit from your deck with a provision cost of 9 or less. And suppose you select Anna Stranger, which has 7 provision. Anna comes into play with an additional 2 power. So she comes into play with 6 power. I mean, if you, let's say, select a bronze card, like Radowitz Guards, Royal Guards, Radowitz Royal Cards will come into play with 9 power, already boosted. So you don't have to, I mean, select, let's say, 6, 7, 8, or 9 provision gold cards. Sometimes it's better to select bronze cards. You know, you thin out your deck. For example, Karak Frigate is a great choice, maybe the best choice for Amphibious Assault. I mean, with Frigate boosted, it's really hard to remove it, so you keep spawning veterans every turn. So I think Amphibious Assault is a 5-star card and no question about it. Ildiko seems really powerful. As you see, order boost an ally unit by 5. So if you keep her alive, you get 10 points out of her. But you have to wait for a turn. Also, if she's inspired, somehow get boosted by another card, which is easy to do in Northern Realms. Whenever you play a Northern Realms unit, give it Zeal. If you somehow, you know, keep her alive and give her boost, you can play dual units like this guy, Seltkirk of Goulet. And what is the drawback of playing Goulet, Seltkirk? Well, you have to wait a turn. He can die. That's why you play with Inspired Zeal leader ability. But if you somehow combo it with Ildiko, it's a huge power swing. So Ildiko has a huge potential, but we're not seeing her often because, as you see, she is very conditional. It's really hard to meet these conditions, and you have to draw these cards in a specific order. That's why I rate Ildiko only 3 stars. It could be a controversial choice, but I mean, we don't see her in tier 1 or tier 2 Northern Realms decks. King Belahun. King Belahun is a gold epic card. Whenever you play a unit with power less than 4, set its power to 4. If you have devotion, increase the power limit to 5. Well, the devotion thing is just a bonus, not that important. But suppose you're playing John Natalis, Philippa, those are really, you know, good cards with low power. I mean, you can boost them to 4 or 5. It's not that big of a deal in my opinion. I mean, you can put better cards in 9 provision slot. You need to devise a specific deck to play around King Belahun, but I mean, it's not worth it. I could, you know, easily give this card a 1-star rating, but it has meme potential, and some people try to test with this card. That's why I gave this 2-star rating. Egmont is the patience card of Northern Realms. He has Zeal and Veil, obviously, and similar to Empyrean Phantom, it damages an enemy unit by 3. But compared to Phantom, at the end of your turn, it doesn't boost himself by 1, it boosts the unit right to it by 1. So it's like a Tamarian Drummer, but with 7 provisions and a 3-point damage option. Looks quite good, and could find use in certain decks, but he's not an auto-include. I mean, he's somewhere between 3 and 4 stars actually, but I think he's quite powerful, and I think he's being underutilized I mean, he deserves more space in Northern Realms decks. He has Veil too. I mean, he is hard to get locked. He can't be poisoned, and he is not gonna get tall and be a great target for Vincent's. He has a lot of positives on him, so I'll play him more. Karak Frigate is the best bronze card in the set because you can play it with Amphibious Assault and you put it on your row with 7 power and 1 armor, and even if you play it with 4 power and 1 armor, let's say he is not why am I saying he? It is not easy to get removed anyway. What you need to do is to put a soldier next to the ship. As long as there's a soldier, you can keep spawning volunteers. So it is a great engine, unless the opponent has a roll punish card, and that roll punish could, let's say, win the game for the opponent. But it's a 5-star card. In almost every Northern Realms deck, we see 1 or 2 frigates. Smoke them out. Another synergetic card with it's a unit boost and uprising ability. You spawn 2 volunteers, but they are boosted by 1. So you spawn 2 3-power units, but they have green health. So it's a pretty good card. For 5 power, you get for 5 provisions you get 6 points and 2 boosted units. And it's a warfare card. You can tutor it out with John Natalis. It's close to a 4-star card, but we don't see it in competitive decks. I mean, we sometimes see it, but not that often. That's why I rated 3 stars. Karak City Guard. Karak City Guard is similar to those Patience cards, but he is a bronze card. And he has been the face of many funny meme screenshots on I mean, I don't know who did the artwork, but he looks ridiculous. Anyway, what does this card do? It's a move card. Well, the Northern Realms didn't have any move cards. Unfortunately, this card cannot move any cards on the turn it comes into play. So it's not a deploy ability. You have to wait for a turn to move the unit to the other row. If you use this ability, the unit will stop boosting himself. If you do not use, it's an engine. I mean, you get 1 power every turn. I mean, sometimes opponent may not be able to respond to a unit like that. So even if you don't move anything, you get a solid engine. Like one of the Syndicate engines. So I think it's a pretty good card. I gave it 3 stars. But I mean, I could give it 4 stars, so it's really somewhere between. It's not an... we don't see Karak City cards in those competitive decks, but some people prefer it. I actually do prefer to use it. I mean, move is valuable. Maybe I should, replace this with 4-star. Karak Marine, another great bronze card. The only restriction is you need to play Devotion. If you're not playing Devotion though, still it boosts a unit by 2, but with Devotion it boosts a unit by 4. So you get 7 points value out of this card most of the time. I think it's a 4-star card. Karak Cutthroat, another 7-point potential card. It gives bleeding. He gives bleeding to a unit. 3 bleeding actually, and if you can play it on the range row with formation, it will get boosted, help with the uprising ability. Also on next turn you can bleed a unit. Somehow you can get full value. Even if you don't get full value, you're gonna get at least 5 or 6 points out of him. So I think it's a very good 4-point provision choice for Northern Realms. Better than previous 4 provision cards. So he is a 4-star card. As you see, Northern Realms bronze cards are really good. Let's move to Scoia'teal. Aethne. Aethne is the evolving card for Scoia'teal, and Scoia'teal's theme for this set is symbiosis. What does symbiosis do? Well, with symbiosis, as long as you keep playing nature cards, I mean, trees will get spawned. Those and it's not great every time, because you know you can accidentally fill out your rows with those trees, especially if you have only a few symbiosis units. Those 1 or 2 power trees will not be really useful for you. So as a result, symbiosis turned out to be a failure. I don't think it's powerful enough. What happens right now is people are playing Gord decks with Shiru and other shenanigans, and I don't think it's really great for the future of the game, for future of Scoia'teal faction. They nerfed Harmony. Well, Harmony needed some kind of nerf, but I mean they did it just because people should play. I mean, CD Projekt Red thinks people will prefer symbiosis to Harmony, and if they hadn't nerfed Harmony, no one would touch symbiosis, because Harmony is obviously better. But still, as you see, people are not touching symbiosis because it's not that great. Especially it's weak to Skellige. I mean, Skellige's powerful units are destroying those symbiosis units, and even some meme decks are destroying. For example, I mean, if you're playing against Assimilate, they will fill out your rows, so you won't have room for crucial units. You may not be able to play your Gord, for example. So as a result, symbiosis turned out to be a failure. So in my opinion, CD Projekt Red needs to check out the statistics and see that when people are playing Scoia'teal, they're not playing symbiosis, they're only playing special no unit Gord decks. So what should they do? They should re-evaluate symbiosis and modify something about it. It needs to be stronger. Well, it isn't right now. As a result, Aethne could have been a great card if symbiosis was really good. Especially the third form has symbiosis on her. If you could somehow make the setup Aethne and 2 young dryads next to her could become great engines. 3 symbiosis units. As long as you keep playing nature cards, some trees will get spawned, oaks will get spawned, and you can play for huge points. But that's not the case. So the meta does not allow it. That's why I give this card unfortunately 3 stars, because symbiosis decks are not tier 1 or tier 2 decks, at best tier 3-4 decks. So that's why it's a 3-star card only. If symbiosis is changed, this could be a 5-star card in the future. Shaping Nature is the echo card for Scoia'teal. I'm giving this 3-star as well, because for 9 provisions and for a gold card, it isn't that great. Well, it has flexibility. You can boost a unit by 6, give it Veil, or boost an allied unit by 8, or give Vitality, and you can get long-term benefits with Shaping Nature. So those 3 options are really cool design points in my opinion, but it's not game changing. I mean, you could get huge tempo boosts, but there are a lot of let's say toll removal cards, reset cards, so it could get answered easily. You don't want to make a unit too big in this game. That's why I'm giving this card a 3-star only. Forest Protector, on the other hand, is a pretty good card, because it doesn't have to be played in a symbiosis deck. Right now, Scoia'teal is almost auto-including this card, because their Scoia'teal decks are mostly special decks, spell decks. That's why Forest Protector is included. It's I rated this card 4-star, but it's very close to a 5-star card. I mean, suppose you're playing elves, maybe you don't need to play Forest Protector. That's why I didn't rate this card 5 stars, I guess. Anyway, Nature's Rebuke is the great complement to this card. Great synergy with it. You play Rebuke from your graveyard again. If you manage to, death blow a unit, it will boost Forest Protector or another. If you have another Treant on the board, it will boost it by 2. So it does 12 points potential. So for 11 provisions, you're getting 12 points, and you can kill a crucial unit on the opposite row. So I think it's a great value card and a great tempo card. If you're bleeding the opponent, this could really help you. Phyrexian, another great unit on the first look. I mean, but it didn't turn out. He didn't turn out to be that good. First of all, you need to play Devotion to get the most out of Phyrexian, because you want both abilities, which are boost a Dryad in your hand by 2 and spawn a young Dryad in this row. So what it means is 7 and 9 points. But you need to have a Dryad in your hand. So that's the condition. But it's really good. But the thing is, I don't see any decks using Phyrexian. Again, if you're playing Symbiosis, this could be helpful. So that's why I'm giving this a 3-star rating. I mean, as I said before, I mean, if Symbiosis is, adjusted, all these Symbiosis cards will be boosted. I mean, these ratings will go up. Dunka or Danka, I don't know how the correct pronunciation is probably the best Patience card in this set. Well, again, order melee damage in enemy unit by 3, similar to other Patience cards. Well, the thing is, Danka keeps boosting the units even if she is moved, so she is not roll locked. The roll lock thing is for only the 3-point damage, and hand boost is really valuable. And if you TA Danka, she becomes unstoppable. I mean, people are using Scoia'teal Heatwave to remove her. So I think still it's a good trade. For 7 provision, I mean, Heatwave is a 10 provision card. So probably the best Scoia'teal card in the set. I mean, compare it to Smuggler. Smuggler hand boosts again. He has 6 provision. As you see, the powers are the same. Danka has 1 armor and plus the 3 damage ability. If you're patient enough, I mean, you can keep the 3 damage. Superior in every way. I mean, it's really definitely worth 1 provisions. I mean, you should always prefer Danka over Smuggler, unless you're playing both. So she is a 5-star card. Great card. Circle of Life. Circle of Life, I think, should be a 4 provision card. I don't think it's really that good. Damage an enemy unit by 3, then boost a random Scoia'teal unit in your hand by 2. If you have Death Blow, you can select the units. But people are using this card in, let's say, few units decks, so there aren't many units. So usually the random target is the only target in your hand. So there are some units like Sheldon Skaggs, so a great target for Circle of Life. Circle of Life will boost Sheldon by 3, which is great. But I think it's a 3-star card. I mean, it is being used in a, let's say, a tier 2 deck, which is the Scoia'teal deck right now, which is really popular in the ladder. But I don't think Circle of Life is that great. That's why I rate this 3 stars only. Hamadryad. Hamadryad has lots of potential. Unfortunately, she should be in a Symbiosis deck. she has synergy with a lot of cards. I mean, a lot of vitality boosting cards, like Nature of Life, Dryad's Caress, Enchantress. Those three cards could target Hamadryad, and when she has vitality, she goes nuts. Could go up to really high numbers, but again, it's really vulnerable to toll unit punish. And if Symbiosis was popular or a good deck, this could be a 4-star card, but it's 3 stars right now. Gwent Canal Guardian. She has Veil and Symbiosis and deploy damage a unit by 2. Veil could be helpful, and I don't think this card is really that good, but it's being used in a specific deck right now. That's why maybe I need to rate this card 4 stars, but I don't like this card. She isn't really that powerful. That's why I rate this card 3 stars, and it's really up to debate whether to use this version of Scoia'teal or the Sheldon version of Scoia'teal. I mean, Sheldon version does not use Gwent Canal, but the other version uses. Anyhow, this is a mediocre card. Abandoned Guard is similar to Gwent Canal Guardian. With order you can transform Abandoned Guard to a Dryad, and it will have Symbiosis and a 4-point Symbiosis card, which could be good. But I mean, she will have Doomed on her, could be a target for let's say Vincent or other maybe other targets. Another mediocre card in my opinion. When she was first released, I mean, people were expecting Harmony be still prevalent in this meta. So with Harmony, you will get a human tag, and then after she is transformed into the Dryad, you play another human and you'll get another boost. But unfortunately, nobody's playing Harmony right now. So she's a 3-star card. Well, Skellige. With Skellige, Skellige is the center of controversy in this meta. Since Master Mirror came out, people kept complaining about Skellige because Master Mirror introduced really powerful Skellige cards, and they have been the target of many nerfs, and Skellige is still one of the best factions in the current meta. Why is that? Let me try to explain. Well, Skellige's theme is veteran, but I mean, the thing is, with veteran, you're getting huge units in the final round. I'm gonna get to that, but let's start with the evolving card, Herald on Crate. Well, Herald, again similar to Oberon, play a Bronze Warrior from your graveyard. That's the ability, and we have really good Bronze Warrior choices in this meta right now, and some non-warrior cards have been promoted to warriors with the release of this set, so there are a lot of options. And Herald was a 6 power card. He got nerfed to 5. In the final form, he had piercing damage, so he could ignore armor. I mean, whenever you play a warrior, a random enemy unit was getting damaged by Herald, so that has been nerfed. The final form, I mean, the unit that's being played from the graveyard didn't have Doom tag. Right now it has Doom tag, so Herald has been nerfed, I think, 3 times. He was that powerful, and he is still powerful. But the only difference is, I mean, the real nerf was the 5 power thing, because with 5 power he could be a target to many cards, so he's going to get easily removed with, let's say, Thunder, Nature's Rebuke. Those cards were not able to kill Herald, but right now they are. So I think it's still 5 stars because he's an auto include. I mean, almost every Skellige deck uses Herald. Maybe in some specific combo decks, or the armor decks, or those kind of decks. I mean, the decks that are not using warriors, maybe want to go to a different direction, or maybe alchemy decks, something like that. They may not use Herald. I think he's still 5-star, but very close to 4 stars because of the 5 power thing. So and I don't like this nerf, because he's not consistent with the other versions of evolving, because they are all 6 power and this guy isn't. He is 5, and it's really not helping my obsession with the every unit being 6. Anyhow, so Herald is a great card. He still is, but not as great as he was before. Blood Eagle, this card got a nerf as well, but still powerful, because it's a great tutor card. You can tutor out a gold warrior from your deck that will, turn the tides for your opponent and yourself. Well, what does it do? Damage an enemy unit by 2, then play a warrior from your deck with a provision cost of 7 or less. This was 8 previously, now it's 7. There are still like pretty good options like Scoia'teal and Herkia, and then that guy with the fist. I forgot his name. Anyway, I mean, those are pretty good gold choices, but they're pretty good bronze warrior choices as well. But if you can hit Death Blow, which is easy to do in Skellige, because you damage a lot of units with your cards, so it's easy to reduce a unit's power to 2. So if you hit a unit by 2 and kill it, you can select any warrior from your deck. I mean, even you can play Heimdall, Morkvark. Those are huge units, game-changing units, and you can tutor them out they are at your disposal anytime, as long as you have a 2 power unit on the opponent's side. And if you don't, if you can get Bloodthirst 3, actually getting a 2 health unit is easier to get Bloodthirst 3. But anyway, so the card gives you that option. In my opinion, this is not necessary. You can erase this line, and erase this line, this card is still good. Anyhow, if you can achieve Bloodthirst 3, again, you can select any card. Well, this is really helpful in Patricidal Fury decks, because you can get immediate Bloodthirst 3 with your leader ability. So that's what makes Patricidal Fury decks popular. So it's 5-star cards. With Amphibious Assault, those 2 cards are the best echo cards in the game. Faction echo cards. Tryggvi Tursak. Well, in my previous video, I think I rated this card 5 or 4-star card. Well, this guy got a nerf. Before the nerf, he was really popular and good. He is a warrior. He can be tutored out with Blood Eagle. However, the Rupture ability is not as good as before. At the end of owner's turn, damage this unit equal to its base power, then remove this status. So Rupture is a status, and only 1 card has it. I don't know what the idea is behind that. Like, you would expect more units with Rupture. Maybe we'll see more in the future. Anyhow, well, with Rupture, if the unit is tall, like Goliath, you can kill it. But I mean, usually units are boosted in this game. So the space power thing was recently added. So if the base, I mean, let's say you're hitting Greatsword, I mean, a boosted Greatsword with 10 power. Well, it's going to only hit 4 because his base power is 4. But before that, Tryggvi was able to one-shot Greatsword or any boosted units. So his use is limited, and for 11 provisions you may select to use different cards. That's why this card has been reduced to a 3-star rating. Still great card, though, don't get me wrong. Scoia'teal Drummond. Scoia'teal requires devotion. Without devotion, it's a 6-point card with 8 provision cost, so it's not that good. So if you have devotion, especially in the final round, it will play for 10 points, and you can remove a crucial unit from the opponent's side. So it's a great tempo swing. It's a great card, but you have to play it on your second or third turn and with devotion. That's why he is not a 5-star card, he is a 4-star card and one of the best gold cards in Skellige. Herkia is another great patience card. It is synergetic with generally Skellige, hit units and get bloodthirst. At the end of turn, Herkia will damage a random enemy unit if you don't use her 3 damage, and that 3 damage isn't one target, it's divided into targets randomly, and those splitting damage could help with, let's say, a unit like Greatsword. So it's a perfect design for Skellige. I think she's great. She is a warrior, she can be tutored out, and she's an auto-include in all warrior decks, and I think she deserves 5-star. War of Clans. War of Clans, at first glance, this didn't seem like a very good card, but after using the card and experiencing it, I think it's very good. But you have to play Devotion again, because you may not be able to trigger death blow every time. But with Devotion, you can hit a unit by 2 and then play a 4 provision cost warrior from your graveyard, and that is a lot of points, and you have good targets for those. I mean, this card, Uncreate Warrior, if it comes from the graveyard, he's gonna hit for 3 instead of bleeding. Again, this guy will hit the opponent. If you have Bloodthirst, you could, at that stage, it could give bleeding. This gal here, if you're playing War of Clans in the final round and she is in your graveyard, she will come as a 7-point card, and 7 plus 2 from War of Clans, you get 9-point value. Crazy. And even the villager, I mean, if you have a target to bleed, like a Veil unit, she'll get a lot of points, but she will only give bleeding, so she's inferior to the other 3 options. As you see, if you somehow put one of these in your graveyard, War of Clans is a great card. So I rate this card 4 stars. Drummond Berserker, another great bronze card. This got an adjustment. Some people call it nerf, some people call it buff. The thing is, this guy was randomly damaging units every turn until it reaches 2 power. Right now, at 3 power, it stops and transforms into Bear Abomination. So you only have 2 turns to damage units. Not so great for Bloodthirst, you have 1 less turn. But it is good for, like, say, it is good against Amnesty. Before you get hit by Amnesty, it will transform into Abomination. And you could get value more quickly compared to the previous version. So it's debatable whether the adjustment is better or not. But this card is still great in my opinion, so it deserves its 5 provision costs. And it is similar to the Longship. With Longship, but you can, control your damages, and you have more turns to get Bloodthirst or hit, say, crucial units. With Drummond Berserker, it's more random, but you get more points out of it. I mean, if you calculate, 2 damage to other units and transforms into 6, you get 8 points. but with the longship is usually destroyed at the end. So I think Berserker is superior to the longship, and it's a 4-star card, but close to a 5-star. Uncrate Raiders. This card is insane, just insane. I don't know why he hasn't been touched by CD Projekt Red. Maybe he will be nerfed in the upcoming patch. I don't know. I haven't heard about it. Well, it's as you see, 4.45 provision. You may say, what the hell? He doesn't look so great. But in the final form, you get a 6-point card with 5 provision, and you have an option to damage a unit by 2. And 6 point is a lot. 6 point is hard to be removed. Yeah, you need to have Decoction or Parasite, and the opponent will play a higher provision card to get rid of it. I mean, I have seen times like Prince Ansei is being used to remove this, and Ansei is what, like 10 provision. It's crazy. And on top of that, if you have Bloodthirst 3, it will gain Zeal, so you'll get immediate value. I mean, suppose you're playing again Patricidal Fury, you use your leader ability, you get 3 Bloodthirst, you play this guy from your graveyard with Herald, and you play the Bloodthirst ability. And that's a lot of points. And in the final round, I mean, Skellige was supposed to be weak. You know, in final short rounds, I'm sorry. I mean, what was Skellige's weakness? Unable to play short rounds. Well, it isn't anymore. I mean, this guy is tall. You know, if you draw him, you won't be disappointed. You don't want to mulligan for it. And it's a 5 provision bronze card. That's insane. That's not logical. I mean, he is one of the best bronzes in the game, in my opinion. I think he's a 5-star card. I mean, you get a lot of points from Uncrate Raiders. Suppose you're playing a pirate deck. He has pirate deck also. Who knows? Maybe we'll see him in the pirate decks in the future. Yeah, I think this card should be, you know, 3 power, or provision cost could be 6. I don't know. I mean, he needs adjustments. He's too powerful. And this girl is close to the power level of Uncrate Raiders. Tursek Invader, Veil Veteran for only 4 provisions. If you play her first round, you won't be sad. 5 power for 4 provisions and Veil on her. She can't get bled. And there are a lot of bleed cards the opponent will not be able to use. And on second turn, she will be 6 power. On the third turn, on the final round, she is 7 power. Insane. I mean, you're playing a short round. I mean, you have no cards left, and you draw what? Invader, Raider. I mean, 7 6-point card. Those are bronze cards, and your short round is insane thanks to these bronze cards. So, I mean, if you spend your gold cards, you're not in trouble. Those bronze cards will save you. I think these cards, these 2 bronze cards, need to be nerfed, not the other ones. Those are really powerhouse cards and helped Skellige immensely. She is 5 stars as well. Drummond Villager. You need specific conditions to get the most out of her, because, you know, you give bleeding to the enemy and to yourself. I mean, to another unit of you. So you need to have a unit to your right. I mean, first we thought, you know, a unit about to die, you know, you put her next to that unit, and that unit will die anyway. But I mean, most of us didn't think about Veil. I mean Veil. I thought you weren't able to play next to Veil because, you know, Veil can't get bled. But I mean, you can target a Veil unit, and the Veil will absorb bleeding, and you'll get immediate value there. That's why Drummond Villager target could be Tursek Invader or other Veil cards, or those fanatics that come from the totem. They are great targets. You can bleed them. But I don't think she's a 5-star card. She's a 4-star card because she was nerfed as well. She used to give bleeding 4. But I mean, even before the nerf, I think she's a 4-star card, not 5-star. But again, a great card nonetheless. Finally, Syndicate. Well, Syndicate's theme is Firestorm in this expansion set. I'm not a fan of it, honestly. I don't like swarm decks. But there are some cards that help out other decks, fortunately. Let's start with the evolving card, Jacques Miraculous Child. This card got a buff, a well-deserved buff, and right now Jacques is a spender. He wasn't a spender before. I mean, right now, you know, almost every Syndicate deck we see Jacques. Why? Because with Jacques, I mean, in his 2nd or 3rd form, you get 12 points with 11 provisions, and you have the option to spend money, spend coin. He is a spender because fee 1 boosts health by 1. So if you have leftover coins, he will be a great target for it. That's why classic traditional Syndicate decks like Wild Hunt, Blood Money, or other similar decks started using Jacques. Before that, only spawn decks, I mean swarm decks, were able to use him. And after the buff, I think he's a 5-star card. Again, a great evolving card, evolving leader. And you don't have to play Devotion. The 2nd form is still good and do the same things. The 3rd form is only for swarm decks, Firestorm decks. Dies Irae. This is a crime card. It can be used in crime decks, but obviously designed for swarm decks. Damaging unit by 3. If you can, you know, hit death. If you can hit death blow, it boosts all units. If you cannot, it boosts only Firestorm units, and you have a lot of Firestorm units if you're planning to use this card. I think it got a buff. It used to be 10 provisions. Right now it's really a solid card. However, this card is only for swarm decks, and Firestorm swarm decks aren't that great. And I cannot call them tier 1 or tier 2. At best tier 3 decks. That's why it's a 3-star card. And as you see, most of similar cards are 3 stars here, because the theme is swarm. Ulrich could be used in both crime guard decks or swarm decks. What does it do? It's when you deploy spawn and play a base copy of a bronze Firestorm unit from your hand. He is similar to Adalia with his function, but he is restricted to Firestorm units, so you can play any Northern Realms unit with Adalia. But compared to Adalia, he has Intimidate. If you keep playing crime cards, he will be boosted, and he has a great target, which is Fallen Knight. Fallen Knight is insane with spawning units. He is hard to deal with, a really great bronze card. I will talk about him in the next slide. And I rate Ulrich 4-star card because, I mean, you cannot use it in traditional Syndicate decks. He's only used for crime and swarm decks. Both are not tier 1 or tier 2, but, you know, since he could be used in multiple types of decks, I'm rating this guy 4 stars. Lieutenant von Heist. Lieutenant is really popular in hidden cache decks with Horde ability. This Horde 4 is reduced to Horde 2, and he becomes an engine himself. He spawns Firestorm Zealot every turn, and if you have remaining coins, or, you know, if the opponent passes, you can use the other coins to let's say transform Firestorm Zealots to Flaming Rose Footmen. So for 1 coin you get 1 more point. He's a great value card in my opinion. If you see him, you should kill him. He is a 4-star card. He is not an auto includes, but he fits. He is a staple in tier 1 2 decks, since hidden cache is considered tier 1 in some websites, but I don't think hidden cache is tier 1 anyway. but it's a very good deck. Roderick the Vet. Roderick is a good card, is a good choice for swarm decks. If you don't use the ability, if you're patient enough, he will spawn a Flaming Roost Footman, and I'm sorry, he will generate coin. If you use the order ability, you will get a Flaming Roost Footman. So I think if you're planning to use your coins, you know, to convert or spawn units, he is a great coin engine. But it's very conditional and is restricted to only swarm decks. That's why the 3-star is best for him. Fallen Knight. Fallen Knight is tough to deal with, and if he is not answered immediately, he gets really big. Why? Whenever you spawn a unit, he boosts himself by 1. Such as if you play a Congregation, he's a Firethorn, so you play Congregation on his row, you spawn 3 units, he becomes 7, and Congregation is a crime card, and he is boosted by 1 due to thanks to Intimidate, so he becomes 8 if I'm not mistaken. That's a lot of points, and he gets tall very quickly. I mean, you could see Fallen Knights in double digits, easily. If you don't have an answer like Invocation or a Baron, your game could be over because of this bronze card. He's a bronze card, but I mean, his function is really close to a gold card value. He's a 4-star card in my opinion. Again, both crime and both spawn decks could use him, similar to Ulri. Smuggle is restricted to swarm decks. Profit 3, spawn a Flaming Roost Footman in an allied row, so it's a supplementary card to the theme. It's a 3-star card, also a crime card. Cleric of the Flaming Rose. Again, this could be used in a crime focus deck or a swarm deck, but he isn't a auto includes. I mean, some people prefer to use it, some do not, so that's why I rate this 3-star. He's an okay card. Lonely Champion. I thought this card was going to be better. Well, I was wrong. Nobody's using it. What Lonely Champion do is, you know, if you have limited space, you may want to, you know, collect all the points from the other cards and put it on a single card, and you can save those cards from roll punish if you play it on time. This card is really hard to deal with, but I mean, when you play it, your point is not increased. That's why it's not being used. I mean, if it says like boosted by 2 or something like that, we could see this card being played. Immunity is huge, obviously. It can't get baroned, can't get invoked, can't be targeted. That's why. But as I said, I mean, you get no value when you play this card. Your point stays the same. That's why I rate this 2 stars. There's potential low, so I didn't give it 1-star rating. And the final card in this set and in Syndicate faction, Mutant's Maker. Mutant's Maker, you need to play Devotion, first of all. You don't want to play this card unless you're playing Devotion. Deploy, destroy an allied unit, and gain 3 coins. If you have Devotion, you don't have to destroy anybody. Well, you can destroy the boat, but I mean, why do that? You know, just play Devotion and gain 3 coins. So if you gain 3 coins, it's basically 7 points for provision. It's pretty good. And you may need those coins. He is a Firethorn and he is a Salamandra, so if you're planning to do something synergetic, he can be helpful as well. He's a 3-star card in my opinion, not worth 4 stars. And that concludes my review and ratings. And in the end, I averaged the scores of each faction and even neutrals, and tried to see who was the best faction in this set. Well, with neutrals, a lot of bad neutral cards in this set, so the average is 2.3, 2.4. For monsters, it's 3.7, Nilfgaard 3.6, Northern Realms 3.7. So those cards did okay. Those factions did okay. They had really good bronze and gold cards. As you see, Scoia'teal sucks right now, but I mean, with adjustment to symbiosis, that could change. I mean, 3 rating is just because symbiosis isn't great. With Syndicate, Syndicate theme is very limited. I wish, I mean, we had more different cards. I mean, Swarm isn't that great. That's why it's 3.4. Skellige is just nuts. 3.9, but I mean, before the nerfs, I'm pretty sure the average would have been over 4 points. So the obvious winner is Skellige. Northern Realms and Monsters are close contenders for the best faction, and Nilfgaard did okay, but however, right now Nilfgaard isn't as popular in the ladder at the time I'm recording this video. Well, if you stayed up to this point, I will congratulate and thank you, because I mean, I talk a lot and my mother language isn't English. I may suck at using some terms and my pronunciation. Thank you for being patient, and it was a long video, and I plan to do these kinds of videos in the future. I love rating stuff and why not rating cards, I thought. So I hope you liked it. I liked shooting it, and I plan to record and create English content regularly, but not as regular as Turkish videos, but I plan to create a English video every week. So if your mother language isn't Turkish, and if you like this channel, please subscribe. You won't be disappointed. I will try to give you content as much as possible, but as I said, right now it's gonna be 1 video per week. Well, if you like the video, please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button, obviously. And thanks for watching, I guess, and hope to see you in the future. Bye bye.